Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to the Six Screens Telenetwork program, JW World News. My name's Rick Farron, and of course, this is my wife, Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hello, everyone.
Well, anyways, we're so glad that you came in and joined us. This is like Susan and I. It's like we're having company come into our house
It is.
every Saturday night.
Yes.
And we've been doing this now for 20 years, and we've never missed a Saturday night. And we are here because you are here. And that is why we're doing this program. We're trying to expose the Watchtower organization. And there's plenty of people listening in tonight that have been hurt. They have been hurt by the policies of the Watchtower. Now, I just want to make it perfectly clear that we're not picking on individual Jehovah's Witnesses. We all had many friends. I had hundreds of friends in the Jehovah's Witness organization, and I will tell you, for the most part, every one of them were nice. I'm not picking on the individual, either as Susan or anyone calling into this program tonight. We're picking on one of the most evil, heinous, fraudulent organizations, and I'm going to pick on the leaders, the officials, the governing body, the people that are supposedly running this fraud. We're picking on them tonight. So if you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses and you are listening in to the Six Screens for the first time, don't head for the mountains. Don't think that we are a bunch of mad, irate apostates here. We're not. We're not here to hurt you. As I always say, we're here to help you. And this is where ex Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk. And I'll tell you what's kind of neat about it is, we've all been, well, many of us have been really hurt, as I said earlier, by the Watchtower. Now, many have come out pretty much unscathed. It's troubling. It was problematic, but, we're able to function in life and do well. But there's plenty that have really been adversely affected, and their lives have been turned upside down because of the Watchtower. Well, Susan and I will make an attempt tonight to bring you right up to speed on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Now, just to give you a little idea, and once again, I'm Rick Farron, and I was a former Jehovah's Witness for 50 years of my life. And Satan kicked me out of his organization back in 2005. I was disfellowshipped for the worst possible crime you could commit in the Watchtower. It wouldn't be murder. It wouldn't be an act of pedophilia. It was apostasy. Apostasy, it takes the cake. It is the worst of all things you could possibly be in the Jehovah's Witness organization. Susan, tell the people about yourself.
Well, I've been out for over 50 years myself, just barely, but it counts. I was baptized in 1975, and I basically think the reason I was attracted to Jehovah's Witnesses was, of course, some of the teachings they had, but it was the people. And you say, well, you're saying these people are so evil. Well, what they do is they love bomb you and they want to be your friend. And at first they are, and they desperately make an attempt to befriend you. But as soon as you're hooked, and they know when you are, trust me, that friendship kind of fades a little bit. And as time goes on, they move on to someone else, and you're left alone, unless you start progressing as one of Jehovah's Witnesses and begin attracting people yourself.
Well, there you go, Susan. That's exactly how it works. And I want to bring up, before we do start the program, just a couple of little announcements here. I wanted to bring up the fact that what I do here at the Six Screens Network, you can't see it all, but I got a number of computers running here in our little control center. And what happens here, the telephone lines that are so important to this program, that's where people call in from pretty much all over the world and voice their concerns of what's going on behind the curtains. Now, I just want to let you know something. If you come into the Six Screens on the telephone line and you unmute yourself by hitting *6, and you're saying, well, what's happening? I'm muted again. That's me doing it. I have to tell you that's me doing it. It's not a mystery. I am controlling your telephone, because sometimes your telephone that you call in on make a lot of noise. They click, they clack, they tweet, they sound terrible. So what I have to do is I have to personally, manually mute you. So if you find this happening, don't keep unmuting yourself. Your phone has got an issue. So it'll be okay. You can come on, but you just can't keep it unmuted, because what it does, it makes it very unclear on the audio for people listening in on the various networks. So if you could do that for me, and I really mean it, if you could, it would help me so much. I'm trying to do the news, trying to watch these telephones. When people unmute themselves, it's good because they want to talk, but don't unmute yourself and hold yourself unmuted for a long time. Kind of just go with the flow. Keep yourself muted. When you're ready to talk, hit *6. That'll unmute you. And then when you're done, if you could do this for me, you would make my life so much easier. Mute yourself when you're done talking. Hit *6 again. All right, right now I got someone coming in. I gotta mute them. See, so I'm doing this all night long. I'm doing this all night. So if you could just remember those rules, then I can concentrate on what I'm doing. I'm not trying to beat you up here, folks, but I'm telling you, it's getting to be a real issue. And I would hate to shut down the telephone lines, but we're getting so many people calling in now from all over the world that it's almost impossible without having some type of a screener or something. But I like this open line business that we have. But if you could help me with that, you would help me so much. I really do ask you, please, to unmute yourself, hit *6. When you're done talking, hit *6 again, and that will mute you. Now, we didn't have to make these announcements so profound in the last 20 years, but because of the influx of business or people coming in to the program here, we have to make some rules. So please do that for me. And if I find someone's not doing it, I'm going to actually knock you out of the um, of the phone line. You have to dial back in again. Now you get the clue. So I'm going to have to start doing this. So if for some reason you're disconnected, that's me doing it, because you have to play by the rules now. All right, we're going to have to tighten things up and do it in a nice fashion, because I want everyone to have clear sound listening to the program. All right, so let's get back into the news here and talk about what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Now, let me tell you, let me, I try to keep it light at first. We talk about a little bit of human events and things that go on. And Susan and I this week, it was a hot day, so we stopped into Cumberland Farms. Now, Cumberland Farms would be like a 7-Eleven. It's a convenience store. You can get a Coke, you can get a hot dog, but you can also get other crazy little things in there. Susan, I want you to explain to the audience what we came across in the Cumberland Farm store this week.
Have you guys heard of squishy dumplings?
Hold up, nice and high. Yeah.
Can you see these squishy dumplings right here? Well, that's what we came across. And I was talking to the girl at the checkout counter, and I said, "What in the world are these? I've never seen anything so crazy." And she said, "Oh, are you kidding?" She says, "The kids are going nuts over these. We can't even keep them in stock." Well, it was a full case of it sitting right there. And so we decided, well, we have to show this to our listeners, because this is just so crazy. And the key is, you want to get a toy. It's a toy. And what you want to do,
No,
should I open it yet?
Take another box.
Okay, what you want to do is you want to get a gold one.
Show it up nice and high.
And this is the gold one right here. Because if you get the gold one, that's supposedly the luckiest one you can get. And actually, it's worth $1,000, believe it or not.
That's what they say, yeah.
They say it's worth $1,000. And Rick picked it. He just went and picked it. And no one can believe that we got the gold squishy dumpling. So I'm telling you, people, that this is the latest craze of young people. If you want to make them love you more, buy them a squishy dumpling.
Well, there you go, Susan. Well, I'll tell you, say, well, what in goodness name's sake There's a 6 screens talking about squishy dumplings. Well, just to give you a little idea, it's a viral, highly collectible toy. It's a craze going on right now.
Yes.
And the reason why it's really big, this thing is going to be bigger than Pet Rock and Hula Hoop and everything else. The reason why it's so big right now is because it was on TikTok and YouTube. Now, what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to, I'm going to that back to that store, Susan, and I'm going to get one of these squishy dumplings. And I'm going to, here it is right here. It's right up close. You can see it right there. Squish it. It feels crazy, but you're squishy. So, anyways, I said, I'm going to go back to Cumberland Farms. I'm going to get one of those squishy dumplings, and I'm going to, not open it up, keep it in the package. And if I could get someone new calling into the 6 screens tonight, I was going to give them a squishy dumpling. Well, I went to 5 stores today, and they told me, "Are you serious? We don't have that. We can't keep them in stock. We cannot. We put them out and they're gone. It's a hot now. I never heard of it. You probably never heard of it either. But it right now is a highly collectible toy. Now, don't go running out and get one. Now, there's a lot of counterfeits too, from what I'm reading here online. So be careful. Make sure you get an original squishy dumpling, because the counterfeits have some gooey matter in them that could be hazardous to your health. So there's a little, look it up online. You can see what I'm talking about. But you say, well, why are we talking about a squishy dumpling? And, there's fads. I mean, all of us have grown up with fads, right? Do you guys remember the Pet Rock and the Hula Hoop, and then all these little crazy little things? Cabbage Patch dolls, Strawberry Patch dolls, all of this stuff. And, I was wondering, what really is the secret? What is the secret to a fad? And, well, I'll tell you what, there's a novelty factor to it all. If something is so bizarre, which these things are, now when you buy it, Susan was showing you, it's in like a little, what do they call these, Susan?
They're made of bamboo. I can't think of the Chinese.
Yeah, it's a special, well, it's a special little container it comes in. Comes in this container here.
And you don't know what color.
So you don't know what color you're getting. So it's kind of like you don't know what you get. I just happen to pick the gold one, which is really the best one you can get. So maybe if you do buy one, hopefully you get a gold one. But okay, so what is the secret of a fad? Well, it's something that's bizarre, humorous, and it's an entirely fresh concept that breaks everyday boredom. Did you hear me with that? It breaks everyday boredom. For some odd reason, people get involved in fads.
And it has a degree of exclusivity to it. That's why, like the gold one is special. So you want something special or different.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why people like this, as well as like even Cabbage Patch and Strawberry Patch. I don't think they call them strawberry shortcake girls. They liked them because certain ones were worth more money. Well, so be it. But it got me thinking. It breaks boredom, and that's what got me thinking about something that I'm thinking. Did Jehovah's Witnesses ever have a JW fad? Do you remember? Do you remember anything in the Jehovah's Witness world that you could say was a fad? Well, I mean, I know maybe not a fad, but it was somewhat of a momentous occasion at one time. A lot of the brothers and sisters were getting involved with multi-level marketing, MLM. Maybe you out there have been involved with some multi-level marketing Jehovah's Witness company. And that was, I would say, it was like a fad because it was really big and then it kind of went away. But then Susan and I were thinking here today, what was another fad in the Watchtower? Well, I'm going to tell you. Do you remember the Barbie doll Jehovah's Witnesses? Yeah, they actually came up with Barbie doll Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, we announced this a few years ago on the 6 screens. I'm going to put some pictures up. Let me put some pictures up so you can see it. Now, I'm going to show you that this is quite unusual. This was a fad in the witness world. I'm going to show you this first. Here they are. Now you can buy these. You can still buy them on eBay, and they're actually going up in price. And a lot of the Jehovah's Witnesses were running out and getting the JW.org Barbie. Now, can you imagine that?
How much are they, Rick? Do you
Well,
know?
well, they were from what I can see here, they were going for $15-$20,
That's all.
and it's probably going up since then. I haven't checked the recent price,
That's probably the
but
retail price of it.
but the reason why now I got thinking, was Watchtower behind this? Was this a private company? Was it the Mattel company who makes Barbie dolls, the toy company? I did not. I don't think Mattel was behind it. I think what some witness said, "Hey, I might have a good little entrepreneurial idea here. I could kind of make a Barbie JW.org doll." And so they came up with that. Now, notice in the picture, notice the sisters. It's all sisters, of course, a Barbie doll. Got to be. I don't think they have a Ken witness yet, but maybe in time. But you see, they're all sisters. But I'm going to tell you what, there was more than what you just see here. They actually had one of these JW Barbie dolls. They actually had a special edition. It was the Special Pioneer. Would you like to see would you like to see the Special Pioneer? There she is right there. That's the Special Pioneer. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If not, if you're on our radio network, it's a blonde sister with a nice business type suit on, standing next to the cart. And what you say there?
I think that all these Barbies, they all have long, sexy hair.
Oh yeah, well no,
They're a little on the.
Well, they're a little on the sexy side.
Yeah.
Little on the sexy side, but Barbie's a little on the sexy side.
She's chesty.
I mean, really. So they really sold a lot of these, and I believe it had to be some witness that just said, "Hey, let's make a few bucks here." Would you like to see another one? How about how about now? I'll tell you what. This is one of the newest ones because this is the Barbie doll in slacks and pants. Now, when they first came out with these a few years ago, all of them were in dresses. Then when the Watchtower changed its position on what a woman could wear in service, well, let me show you that. Let me show you the Barbie doll. Would you like to see that? Let me show you the Barbie doll with slacks. Well, there she is right there. Well, there she is standing next to her cart. So that's kind of fascinating, right? So that's a relatively new one there. Now, don't run out and buy a JW Barbie doll. I mean, I don't know if they're going to go up in price like the squishy dumpling here.
I think the squishy dumpling, you have a better chance.
You might have a better chance with a squishy dumpling. But I wanted to bring that up tonight because it just got me thinking when we went into the store and, fads, with the Jehovah's Witness fads. Can anyone out there, I mean, if you're listening into the program tonight, can you think of any Jehovah's Witness fads? Now, I was in for 50 years. Well, I mean, you could go with, a lot of the witnesses got involved in, I don't know if it could be known as a fad, but they got involved in, special ideology. What do they call that when you read your eyes, Susan? Iridology. And other things like that. The witnesses would go bonkers over.
Kinesiology.
Yeah, kinesiology. Some of them got involved in weight loss programs. I guess you could call those somewhat of a fad. Does anybody out there remember any fads that you'd like to share with us? Were you involved in something? Yes.
Hey, this is Craig from Florida.
Yes.
When the Reasoning from the Scriptures book came out, the in thing was to be cool, was to get it bound together with the New World Translation.
That's right. Yeah, in fact, that was like a fad, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was the in thing to be cool to go out in the ministry. You had it bound together as one book or one volume. That's what I remember.
Yeah. Well, that was like a fad, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know the organization would never encourage any fad. That they wouldn't do that. But you know what really amazes me? I'm really surprised that Watchtower, the head organization here, didn't step in with these Barbie dolls. But I guess it wasn't hurting them. They were getting free publicity. So I figured, well, they must want to run with it. Anyone else have an idea of a Jehovah's Witness fad? It's something we've never talked about really here on the Six Screens, but I guess we really can't think of some. And I see Diamond Dave, you hang in there, Diamond Dave, because I'm bringing you on in a while. I'm bringing Diamond Dave on a while. I'm going to get his thoughts on some other things. So hang in with us, Dave. I'm going to bring you on in about 10 minutes or so. So hang in there with us. All right, let's go to this subject here. And
Rick,
yes,
can you hear me, Rick?
yes, I can. Let's go to Anne Marie first.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to comment to the kind of funny, quirky fad that they had in the 70s when it was going around that everybody should start having their babies at home, and women were fighting for the right to have a midwife and have their babies at home. And Jehovah's Witnesses started having their babies at home with just sisters who weren't qualified, didn't know what the heck they were doing, and they really could have hurt the mother. They had this one mother give birth on a table, a kitchen table, and everybody standing around the table waiting for the baby. When the baby came out, they just left her there. They took the baby and went into the kitchen and were all cooing at the baby, and nobody was watching the mother who could have been bleeding to death. They weren't there to help her pass the placenta or to help her lie down or anything. And they had it in the Awake. It was an article. That's why I'm saying it. It was a crazy time.
Well, Anne Marie, thank you for sharing that with us. No, I remember that. Yeah, I do. That was a fad. And also there was a fad of homeschooling your kids here for a while. Everyone was getting involved with that. It kind of, the momentum gets going. One person does it, then another person does it, and it just takes off like a rocket. Yeah, well, thank you. Do we have another caller? Go ahead. You're on with us.
I hope someone wrote down the time of birth.
I don't think anybody did anything right. And the sad thing about homeschooling is the brother said from the podium at the circuit assembly about homeschooling your children. We need them in the public schools to be witnesses for Jehovah. The organization does not want parents to homeschool their children. They end up doing it anyway. So the organization just shut up about it.
Yeah, there you go, Anne Marie. I'll tell you what. No, the organization would not encourage fads, but they wouldn't discourage it if it was, bringing the witnesses together and furthering the kingdom. I guess that's how they would look at it. Does someone else have a fad in the Watchtower? Go ahead.
I think that was one that you just now said, homeschooling. Some witnesses wanted to homeschool their children, and I did see it happen. And there was one sister who was homeschooling her daughter, and I think her daughter, I don't think it was a good thing. That's all. There was another. I like all those ologies you were just talking about. I do remember, this goes back a long time ago, but this might have been just a local congregation thing where sisters for field service, they got these shoes. You couldn't really tell it just to look at them, but they were getting, some of the sisters were getting men's shoes.
Well, I never heard of men's shoes. I mean, like loafers, or
You couldn't. They were must have been some kind of special, comfortable shoe. They didn't look exactly like men's shoes, but they were men's shoes, and there were some sisters who would get them for field service.
wow. Well, that might have been a local thing, but I don't know. I think, well, men's shoes would be more comfortable than, high heels,
Yeah.
It probably was a local thing, and I remember the sisters who actually wore them.
Wow. Well, now you got me
This is going
thinking,
way back.
you got me thinking of different clothing fads. At one point, I remember it would have been back in the late 70s, I would think, maybe early 80s, that a bunch of the brothers started wearing these Nehu, what do you probably Nehru jackets. They had an odd cut to them. The collar was different, and a bunch of the brothers were wearing those. Yeah, and then that was pretty much nationwide. wasn't just locally. So that was a fad as well.
But
Yeah.
they were discouraging.
Yeah,
those,
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, discovered those, Susan. Yeah. You remember some?
And then there was
Yeah.
another one, because of the 1975. This again might have been a kind of local thing, where the 1975 idea also had as part of it the Great Tribulation, which would have to come before Armageddon. So there would be this time of great trouble, and we might have difficulty getting food and stuff. So there were some people who were putting, it may have been local, they were getting flour and other baking type stuff and putting it in galvanized cans so that they would, at least at the beginning of things going short, be able to bake bread at least.
Well, yeah, no, I remember that. That was more of a national thing. And now you got me even. Yes, who's this?
This is the pasta babe, Linda James.
Yes, Linda, what do you think?
I don't know if this is considered a fad, but I was actually sent to a school for Jehovah's Witnesses. And
Oh, yeah.
I learned how to play guitar there. I did a few drawings that were pretty unique, and I managed to get myself kicked out. But I went to a Jehovah's Witness school, which was basically a school owned by Jehovah's Witnesses. It was not affiliated with the organization itself.
Well,
It was
that
just
well, that's
owned by Jehovah's Witnesses, and you had to be, the child of a Jehovah's Witness to go.
well, I have heard of that. I never knew anyone that went there, but now you're the first I knew that did that. So I guess you could call that. I guess you.
I never wanted to bring it up because I got myself kicked out.
Well, I guess you could. I guess you could call it a fad. Yep. I guess you could call that a fad. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
you,
Linda.
Rick.
Excellent.
okay,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, fads in the Watchtower. Maybe you guys can remember some, but that's good. I appreciate all you guys at least giving some thought to it. But it all started this week, like I say, when we got the squishy dumpling. Yeah, so if you go out, make sure you get a real one. Make sure it's not a counterfeit one, and hopefully you get a gold one. And don't I wouldn't buy any of those Barbie doll Jehovah's Witnesses online either. That I don't think they're going to increase much in value because it's a very niche market, I should say. Susan, what do you say?
Well, I think some brother saw the opportunity to start a business, and he's making these Barbie dolls. I don't think there's much need for them. I don't think most girls would even want a Barbie doll. They probably want something the opposite of a Barbie doll. So, if at all, so I think it's an unusual, strange piece of
Well,
memorabilia.
Well, there you go, Susan. All right. Well, anyways, let's move on here on JW World News. And we had Diamond Dave on a little earlier. Maybe we can get him back in a little bit. Anyways, Susan, I want to bring this up.
Yes.
You were referring this week to some things that got me thinking. You were coming across some type of a Harvard study that was
Yes.
talking about what makes people happy. And, when we both do the news here together on 6 screens, I say we always have to kind of tie it in with Jehovah's Witnesses. So, first of all, Susan will give you some of the secular reasons that would make people happy or make people unhappy. And then I've got some thoughts on being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't think there's any reason that would really bring true happiness. But Susan, let's see what you have to say, okay?
Well, one of the premises of this country is that we would have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that is not a wrong thing to pursue happiness. Some people think they need to suffer and be miserable in order to have some kind of a life, but that's not true. So Harvard did a study, 10 things science says makes you happy. Now, this is science. This isn't just some Glamour magazine study. This is actually done a few years ago. It says one of the things that can actually make you happy is to smile. Just smile. You will feel different if you smile. So you can do that every day and it's free. In fact, all these things are free. You can make friends or try to make a friend. And when you're with them, also smile. In fact, every time you smile, the more you smile, the happier you are. You try it. I did. The more you smile, the happier you become, even if you're bummed out. It's avoid comparisons, comparing yourself to other people. Don't do that. You don't have to be as thin or rich or happy or sad or whatever as someone else. Just be yourself. Don't compare yourself to anyone or anything else. Another thing is to have goals. Do you know that when we hire people at our little business that we have in Lowell, Massachusetts, we ask people, what are your goals? They don't have any goals. They have nothing. What would you like to do with your life? They don't know. Just day to day. That's all they think about. Number 5 is take the initiative. So whenever things aren't going your way, do something to make it go your way. And also smile. Smile with everything. Devalue money. People think money's everything. If it isn't worth a lot of money, or money's the big motivator. And that's what they tell us at work. Pay us more money and we'll do more work. Guess what? They don't. So you want to devalue money. It's not worth what they say it is. Give away something. Instead of valuing money, give away something that you have. You will find you're very happy. You help someone else and give away something that you have and smile while you do it. Say thank you. Tell people that you appreciate them holding the door open or handing you something or just being kind. Tell them thank you and smile. And the last 2 things, one is to exercise and the other one is savor every day. Every day is like a gift to you. Open it up and smile.
Well, there you go, Susan. Well, those are reasons or ways that you can make yourself happy. Now, you say, well, what does this have to do with the Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I can remember going into the Kingdom Hall, and you guys can all do it as well. I know at times I'm preaching to the choir here, as I say, but you'd go into the Kingdom Hall and you had to fake being happy. Did you ever fake being happy?
All the
I
time.
know I did. I really did. I can remember going into the Kingdom Hall, and people would say, "How you doing, Brother Farron?" And I could have had one of the worst days at work. Everything could have went bad, but not that I was lying. I'd call it puffing. I'd walk into the Kingdom Hall. How you doing, Brother Farron? I'd say, I'm excellent. Thank you. I'm excellent. See, we were trained. We were trained to have to be happy. Deep down inside, we probably had a billion things going on that were aggravating us, but we couldn't show it at the meeting. We couldn't show it in service. Couldn't show it at a convention. And it's just something that the Jehovah's Witnesses used to always even have a saying that we're the happiest people on the planet. Did you ever hear that, Susan?
I did, but I was wondering, who are those people?
Yeah, because I mean, I knew that Jehovah's Witnesses weren't the happiest people on the planet, and I guess, I guess if you keep telling people enough times something and they hear it enough times, they might come to grips with it. But one thing that I have found out, friends, is Jehovah's Witnesses are not really the happiest people on the planet. Many Jehovah's Witnesses, and maybe you were one of them, you struggled with deep unhappiness due to the psychological toll of severe performance pressure, constantly fearing. It's a fear based doctrine. So you were constantly fearing something. And you also had a total suppression of personal identity. Okay, well, let's just dissect that for a second. First of all, psychologically, the Jehovah's Witness organization was really putting a toll on us. We had a severe performance pressure. Now, if you're listening to this, don't say you didn't have it, because you did have it. You had a you had to perform. That's the way we that's the way that we could become a good Jehovah's Witness, by performance.
You could only excel if you performed.
Yes.
That excelling was what they were looking for. If they wanted an elder, they were looking for a ministerial servant who was excelling.
Yes, Susan. You had to perform. And you had that's pressure. You like always having to perform. Well, it can go in many different ways, right? But geez, you like to relax once in a while. But there was severe performance pressure, and constantly fearing something in their fear-based doctrine. Oh, did I stumble someone? Oh, am I the one causing the congregation to have spiritual trouble? Am I the Achan? I mean, constantly fearing something. And also, I like this here, a total suppression of personal identity. Did you have identity in the Watchtower? Absolutely not. You were encouraged and discouraged to get away from this pride. You're nothing special. You have nothing going for you. You are just a slave. You are just an ordinary person. You couldn't show any talents. You couldn't show any abilities. You were just another Jehovah's Witness, and you had no personal identity. We were all the same. Do you feel that way, Susan?
Well, I think that you're correct. And one other thing that I noticed is your identity was you are a pioneer, you are a ministerial servant, you are an elder, you carry the microphone. That was your identity. There were no other identities. You couldn't be a kid going to school and carrying the microphone. No, that didn't work. It was totally what they labeled you as. That's all they had.
And I'm going to tell you another thing, and it's still in the same genre here, the same topic, so to speak. But I can remember too, and I had at one time, there was a bunch of brothers that worked with me in the Kingdom Hall, and I gave them all a good job, and we were all happy. And I remember one night I would go into the meeting, and I had a bunch of the brothers. We all had a good time together, working together. And I can remember one night I was just talking a little bit about business, and I got a tap on the shoulder from one of the elders. Brother Ferrin, we don't talk about business. I mean, see, there's no identity. I had another identity other than being a Jehovah's Witness, and everybody does. Everybody has a workplace they like to talk about, but they always wanted you to talk about spiritual things. Now, sociologists, people who study human behavior, and mental health professionals, people who understand the dilemmas and the frustrations mentally that people can suffer from. They have examined many Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-witnesses that have come forward, and they have pinpointed distinct cultural and structural reasons for many Jehovah's Witnesses and why they are experiencing chronic distress, anxiety, and depression. Now, did you have anxiety? Did you have depression? Did you have any type of chronic distress in the Watchtower? I have to tell you, I think I did as I go back now, because I feel so free now. But I think I was suffering from some type of I guess you could call it anxiety. Well, I'm going to go more with chronic distress. Chronically, you're always distressed. You
always have to do something.
Always got to be doing something. You can't let your guard down. They're going to be watching every move you make, every breath you take, so to speak. So, but some of you might have suffered from large amounts of anxiety. You might have also just suffered from depression. That's a terrible thing. And, you're never doing enough. How can you belong? How can you be happy when you're not ever doing enough? That's guilty, right? Did you feel guilt? Well, we all felt guilt. Susan, do you think guilt's a big problem among people in the Watchtower?
Oh, I definitely. So, the reason that they're not happy is because they have so much guilt. Well, I should be going out in service today. I would like to, work on my garden or do something fun with my kids, like take them to the pool. But you know what? I got to go out in service. I only have 5 hours in this month. I got to put more time in. Can't do it. Well, that's stressful. And you need time to relax and be with your family, because that's what God wants, is families. He didn't say in Genesis, I want you people to come into a church and worship me. He said, I want you to make families, to be a mother and a father and raise children and have the children raise children. This is my command for you with a promise. So that's what he wanted for us in Eden. So we're not going to be happy unless we follow the things that were initially made for us to do.
Right. And we wouldn't be on some type of total control, Susan.
Right.
So, this guilt cycle, we all know that the Watchtower, well, I'm going to give you the way they operate. They operate on what they call a merit-based system. Merit-based system or structure, call it what you want, is where a member's spirituality is explicitly tied to observable activities. Oh, now what do you think of that? In other words, in the Jehovah's Witness religion, the more spiritual or the more you love the Watchtower, the more you get accolades, the more you get pats on the back. So the Watchtower organization operates on this so-called merit-based structure. The more you do spiritually, the more of a Jehovah's Witness you really are. And you wouldn't be classified as a weak one. Well, the organization has always presented this image of idyllic happiness, as I mentioned earlier. Everyone is supposed to be happy. They're supposed to really be all the happiest people on the planet. But psychologists, sociologists have researched the lives of Jehovah's Witnesses. And what they have observed is the Jehovah's Witnesses are living in an organization that functions as an emotional pressure cooker. Well, what do you mean by that? I mean, do you know what a pressure cooker is? It cooks by pressure. It's what you do when you're in the Watchtower. You function by pressure. Get out in service. Get to the meetings. Make sure you get to the convention. If you can't get to the convention because your boss won't let you go, quit your job. You know that. Jeez. So how can you be happy? How can you be happy being one of Jehovah's Witnesses? And no matter how many hours you put in, the underlying message of the Watchtower is that you can always do more. Oh, would you like to work at a place like that? Well, would you like to have a marriage like that? If your husband came home, honey, you can always be doing more. And you heard that every day. Or the husband comes home and the wife says, honey, you could be doing more. You should be working harder. I mean, geez, if you heard that every day, well, what type of feeling would you get? Geez, you'd feel 2 feet high. You'd feel like you're just useless. But, that's what the organization does to you. It makes you feel useless. Well, there's a lot more I could discuss there, but I'm not going to beat it to death. I'm not, but the one thing I will, there's a lot more points I'd like to bring up, but I'm going to call it institutional poverty. Yes, Watchtower guidelines, and you know it. When you were a witness, I know when I was a witness, I got by. I did okay. I wasn't living high off the hog like most Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't live high off the hog. But it's called institutional poverty. The Watchtower makes you poor. Did you know that? I think most of you guys know the Watchtower make you poor. There's many a times I was in business for myself. I had a little business. There was many times I like to stay out a little longer, get a little more business, make a little more money for my family and trying to raise 5 children, pay the rent, pay the insurance on the car, put gas in the car. But the Watchtower causes this institutional poverty, and they discourage people from a career, from going to university, and they view those as spiritual distractions. Well, those spiritual distractions could have put more money in your pocket. And we listen to those spiritual. If you listen to those spiritual distractions, we probably would have been a little better off today, right? By those witnesses listening in today. So the thing I want to keep bringing up here is the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are not happy. Don't buy their happiness. They're not the happiest people on the planet. So what do you guys think about that? Well, were you happy? Were you really happy when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Let me hear from you. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Hit *6.
I would too. I'd love to hear.
Well, maybe
what made you
maybe
happy.
Susan.
Maybe you were happy.
Well, maybe everybody listening in tonight was happy. I mean, maybe they were happy. Maybe they love being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I suppose there could be some out there who would think that.
Didn't your daughter Jenny? Didn't she say she?
Well,
liked
yeah,
it?
no, I've heard people. I've
Yeah.
heard people. I have a daughter that left the organization. She's not a witness anymore, but she kind of said she missed it a little bit, Susan.
Yes, she did.
And I said, well, what? How do you miss the organization? How do you miss an organization that doesn't make you happy? And my daughter told me, she says, well, I like the regimented lifestyle. There's a meeting on Tuesday night, there's a meeting Thursday night at the time, meeting Sunday, service meeting, all of that stuff. So, going out in service. So she liked the regimented lifestyle, just like people go in the military. They spend 20 years in there. They like the regimented lifestyle.
Or they need the
Yeah.
regimented.
Yes, go ahead.
This is Zachary again. It sounds like that person likes the structure that being a witness gave them. But as far as being happy, I won't say that I was happy, or not. Happy sounds Jehovah's Happy People, that song. But I think that, oh, I'm so sorry. I think that what I felt as a witness, it was you're kind of happy because you really believe it's the truth, and you believe that you're at the end of the system of things, and you're really working to prepare to go through this destruction. But I remember I had a nice job, full-time I was working, and I was also pioneering. And so I lived near work, so that was a real convenient thing. But I was busy. And one time, everybody knew I was a witness because of my resume when I got my job there. The last job I had was Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. So one day, I got to talk with people I worked with. My supervisor knew about me being a witness and knew how busy I was. And there was always interesting stories to tell about, when I was at Bethel or even at the hall, things happening. One time I let it out that, I need to do just a little bit more. I need to do this, I need to do that, and then I'll be caught up. And my supervisor watched me and listened, and then said, he brought up a George Orwell, but he didn't bring up the 1984 book, the book 1984. He brought up the book Animal Farm. And he said to me, remember the horse in Animal Farm? And I said, yeah. And remember, the horse was always saying, I can do more, I can do a little bit more. And if I just do a little bit more, things will be fine. And he said, and the horse did do little more, little bit more, little bit more, and worked himself tired. And he ended up at the glue factory.
I remember that story, Zach. Yeah, that's the story of life, right?
Yeah, Animal Farm. Yeah. So yeah, there is this this idea of do a little bit more, a little bit more. It's okay to do a little bit more if Armageddon really is 6 months away. But people end up thinking that it's so close, and they do. You live a lot of life with that attitude, and you start to realize it's not so.
Well, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Zach.
very good.
Thank you.
It'd be okay if you did more for yourself and your own goals and your own family and your own progress through life, but they wanted us to do more for them. And there's issues of all that child labor and all those exhausted adults and quotas and hours in the ministry. So it wasn't for our own benefit.
Could I share this?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was talking about the Harvard study, and they made a pie chart of the 4 things that make people happy. And it also wanted people to recognize that the ages between 20 and 35 are the ages when human adults are usually the happiest. And then they'll turn again around age 70. They'll start, it's easier for them to be happy. Why? They don't know. Those are just the statistics. But there's the 4 pillars of happiness, and they are family, friendship, faith, and work. So if we keep these 4 pillars in mind, along with helping others, doing for others, not like the Watchtower wants us to do for others. That's not it. But being involved with other people, doing things, being around other people, having causes to work for. And it also says 50% of your mood is genetics. It just is that way, as far as they can tell. 10% is their circumstances in life. But 40% are your choices and mindset. So that you do have control over. So what you choose and the way you think, and your faith can affect 50% of your choices. It will. So that's something to think about.
Oh, very good, Susan. That's something to really think about. Yes, go ahead. You're on with us.
Hello, Rick. Hello, Susan. It's Donnie here.
Hi, Donnie.
Hi, Johnny.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, I just want to answer your question. No, I was not happy as a JW. I became happy the moment I handed in my letter of resignation to the congregation secretary on his doorstep. That's the last time that I did any door knocking. And he came to the door and I handed him this letter. He had no idea what was in it. And I put my hand out and shook his hand and I said, thank you very much for everything. Take care and goodbye. And as I walked away from him, it felt like there was chains falling off me. And suddenly my mood changed. That was January 2024. And suddenly I just felt fine. I felt well. I felt I don't need antidepressants anymore, because before that, I had 27 years on antidepressants while being a Jehovah's Witness. So no, I was not happy personally.
Well, Donnie, I'm sad to say that you did experience that, but you're doing better now. You sound like you're really moving in the right direction. Yes.
But isn't it amazing, though? The moment I hand in that letter to him, I do not want to be a Jehovah's Witness. Do not contact me ever again. You're covering up paedophiles all over the world. That's what my letter said, basically. I just, I freed myself, and, And from that moment, I got the peace that Jesus promised, peace and a light load. So I say thank you very much to God for waking me up, for letting me see the hours and hours of footage that I watched of the Australian Royal Commission. And thank you so much to God that he woke me up.
Wow, my goodness, that's a good story, Donnie.
Amazing.
It's amazing that you're doing better now, and I'm sure many listening in tonight that have just broken the chains of the Watchtower off of them. You just keep going in the right direction. Stay away from that organization, and you'll feel just like Donnie. He'll be very free and feel happy for once in your life. Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, honey.
Well, that's a good call. We love Donnie coming in here and speaking up from London. That's always good to hear people calling in from pretty much all over the place, really. But I want to bring something up too, and especially today. And I don't want to beat this to death, but what's the gas price in your area? Up here, I saw it today. It's the highest gas price I have ever seen in the state of Massachusetts. I went by a station today. I believe it was 422, 422 a gallon. I've never seen it like that. And I'm thinking, what are Jehovah's Witnesses doing? That they're gonna be feeling these adverse effects from inflation. I was in a store the other day and I wanted to get some codfish. Oh, we love fish. Susan loves fish. I went in the store. How much was the codfish, Susan?
Was it 22?
$23.
23?
$23.95. And this is up here in Massachusetts, the cod capital of the world. And I mean, what is it like in other?
That's where it comes from.
I know it. And I'm looking at $23.95 a pound. I'm saying, what's it going for out in the Midwest? What's it going for out in Chicago or Los Angeles?
Somebody used to make codfish for me, and it used to come in a little box, a little wooden box.
Yeah, it was good.
And as a child, it was delicious. And then we couldn't get it anymore. I haven't seen codfish in 30 years.
Yeah, well, they got it up here. I mean, this Cape Cod, this is the cod capital. But, the thing is, so it got me thinking. I'm thinking of gas. I'm thinking of the codfish. I'm thinking of the prices at the store. I'm thinking of the high cost of everything. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you something. A friend of mine went up to the beach, up to Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, and he wanted a lobster roll. So he got a lobster roll. You like lobster? It's okay. I'm not a real lobster fan, but everyone up here in New England, they love lobster rolls. So we went to the beach. What do you think they get for a lobster roll? And let me tell you something. The lobster roll, they put lobster meat mixed with mayonnaise and maybe some relish or something, and they put it on a hot dog bun, and he paid $40. $40. $40 for a lobster roll. And I'm going, this is out of whack.
And he let his girlfriend pay for it.
Yes, girlfriend paid for it. Yeah. But,
Hey, I want to come up and visit you guys. You drive me around, and the food will be my treat because you got me wanting that fish now.
oh yeah, that's. I'll tell you what, the fish is good up here. If you get some good fish, there's a lot of seafood places.
Very good.
But anyways, what I was thinking is, okay, it's hard enough for a working person, never mind a Jehovah's Witness, to keep up with inflation. And, one statistic that I do know when I was talking about that institutional poverty, I'm going to go back to that for a second, because demographic data frequently shows that Jehovah's Witnesses have some of the lowest average household income brackets among religious groups.
Yes.
They do. Now, I'm not picking on them because they're having a hard time, because
They're not lazy.
they're not lazy, but they're doing all this work for the Watchtower and getting diddly squat. Many of them are just scraping by financially. They're waiting for the new system that will probably never arrive in their lifetime. And they're under economic stress. And what economic stress does to people, it doesn't make you happy. It makes you unhappy. I mean, really, do you know there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses right now that are actually living in with one another? Many have actually said, we can't pay the rent. We can't live like this and still be Jehovah's Witnesses. So many Jehovah's Witnesses, from what I've heard, I can't prove it to you, but information coming in here to the 6 screens, many witnesses are now moving in with one another just to be able to get by. So, how can you really be happy when you're undergoing tremendous economic stress? Now, I'm sure there's people other than Jehovah's Witnesses too that have economic stress, but at least, you can get a little gig job going. You can work a little extra, you get a little part-time job extra from your full-time job. But Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not really gig workers. You'll be hard pressed to find many witnesses, working for Uber Eats or DoorDash or something like that because they have no time. They got a regular job. They can't. That's what a lot of people are doing right now. They just can't pay their bills with their full time job. So they take a little gig job, they call it. That would be like driving, delivering food or delivering some packages or whatever, and you can make some extra money. But Jehovah's Witnesses can't do that. They got to go to the meeting. They got to go in service. They'd be discouraged from that. So just a thought I had here. How can they be happy? Well, should we change gears, Susan?
Yes.
I'll tell you, we're gonna get into not the next story, but the story after this one. I'm gonna get into people have been sending me information here that you are gonna find fascinating. Now, the witnesses, Jehovah's Witness organization, I should say, the Watchtower, they're considering, it's not my thought now, it's what people writing me and telling me, they're considering of doing away with a chaperone when you're dating. Well, we'll get to that story in a little bit, but I want to cover this story first. This story has to deal with the governing body. And I think about this a lot. I mean, I don't lose sleep about it, but I think about it a lot. And I'm thinking the governing body members, I believe right now there's 13 of them. I believe it's 13. The governing body members, they should have remained a mystery. Really, I mean this. I can't think there's an old saying. I like sayings. It's better to remain silent and thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubts. Now, we so we, kind of ties in with my thoughts here. We've always kind of heard them speak at conventions and things, but this is the first time we saw them up front and close. I mean, it's not good. It's really not good. I think I think it's a colossal mistake, really, that it was made for the governing body to start putting themselves at the forefront of this religion by showing up on these JW broadcasts each month. I think it was a mistake. As I look back in retrospect and I see all these people leaving, and there's like a whole lot of people right now exiting at the Kingdom Hall, this could be one of the reasons. Now, it's not the whole reason, but I really think that the crack that opened up here for many to leave started with, it started with the governing body now being very visible. And, you guys kind of grew up as I did. And many, I'm getting older and you guys are probably younger, but we all grew up. I grew up in the 60s, 70s, many listening in the 80s and 90s. But, the faithful and discreet slave, it was always a mystery. Now, Susan, you did you always look at the faithful and discreet slave as a mystery?
They were mysterious to me. I came around the truth in 1975. I was baptized, and they were just this group, this nebulous group that were supposed to be like our leaders, our cheerleaders, the ones that kept us going, and the ones who contacted God and let us know what He wanted us to do and how we were doing with our preaching work, teaching work, the Bible study work. They were just communicating to us constantly, and we heard them, but we didn't really see them. There's a difference.
Well, it's a big difference, Susan. Absolutely right. Let me just take this back here, the mic. There's a big difference. There's a big difference when you see these guys up front and close. Now, we always looked at them as a mystery. And even as far back as I would say the early 2000s, we all really didn't know. If you went up to a Jehovah's Witness back in 2000, 2001, 2002, and said, "Can you name, three governing body members?" Many would be hard pressed to do that. So now everyone knows who the governing body is. If they kept themselves a mystery, I think it would have been better. But for some reason, ego got in the way, and they had to get themselves out in the open. And just to bring you up to speed here, it was in July of 2013 that everything shifted. That this is really when the faithful and discreet slave put a face on themselves. And they came forward. Now people got a chance to see the faithful and discreet slave on these JW broadcasting. That was, well, actually, they got the idea back in 2013, but they started showing up on these JW broadcasts in 2014. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, and I brought up here numerous times, they're getting older. When you get older, like myself and older people listening in, you don't look like you're 20 years old anymore, right? So, but geez, they got handsome brothers, they got beautiful sisters. They could kind of bring them out more. Not that they would ever have an anointed sister come on the governing body. That would never happen. But they could get some governing body members. Bring some new ones in that are handsome brothers. Look at it. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, it's Maverick here.
Yes.
This is a really, you're reminding me, you're bringing me back some nostalgia of when I actually left, because I left literally that autumn, 2013, and that Watchtower you're talking about in July, that one was the one I walked out of the Kingdom Hall on, when the Faithful and Discreet Slave article, when it said that your relationship with Jehovah depends on this channel. And I said, no, it doesn't. I'm out of here. That was my very last meeting. And interestingly, I actually was reflecting, as you said, that the broadcast started to happen there in 2014 onwards. And I went, thank you, Lord, for allowing me to step out of this organization. And I don't have to represent these guys that I can see what they look like now. And I felt like a relief that the embarrassment of being saying, oh, you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Those clowns at HQ. It's like, I was like, I'm so glad I don't represent them anymore. Because before that, as you said, do you remember, like, when you'd get the brother come up to the for the local needs or announcement in the ministry school, and he would be extra serious and extra solemn. And you think, there's going to either be a disfellowshipping tonight or something serious is going to be announced. And then this somber sort of brother would come up and give the announcement. And he would be like, we have a special letter from the governing body, from this faithful and discreet slave. And then they would start reading something about some convention or something. But everyone was on tender hooks. Everyone was on like, oh my goodness, governing body is speaking. Let's just pay attention. This is like there's been, someone's got like a HQ to the White House, like the red telephone box is buzzing on Batman, and so it's like, but that's all gone. It's blown out the water now. It's gone. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't represent these people. I'm so glad that when I used to go on the ministry, at least I thought there was a serious body of men behind the structure of this thing. And as you said, Rick, it's like they can't hide it anymore. And what it was as well is there's no charisma, there's no personality, and people who are they're so stiff. It's like those Barbie dolls have more life in them than the JW broadcasting. There's more movement in those dolls than anyway. But you just reminded me, it's exactly that point where I thought, you know what, I'm out of here, because it's not doing them any justice. They're losing members from the broadcast, for absolutely, for sure.
Well, you got me laughing here, Maverick. You really do, because it's so true. You were expecting, when they were out of sight, out of mind, it was like a real mystery. When you're speaking about the faithful and discreet slave, these people are personally appointed by the God of the universe to dispense meat in due time. And then you get these buffoons coming out and it's like a clown show. And then you go, what? And you say, that's the governing body. You expect some, real rugged looking guy, some, bodybuilding guy. I mean, it doesn't have to
In
be,
a nice suit.
somebody that's really like on the ball sounding. And, this guy's being directed by Jehovah. Oh, what a wonderful guy. Geez, you look at these guys and say, that's it. I mean, it's like, I can't go along with this. I can't wrap my head around this stupidity. I can't. And a lot of people, Maverick, you're not the only one that felt that way. There's plenty of people, and that's why I'm thinking it's not the reason for many people leaving the organization right now, but it's one of the reasons. How much can the witnesses take? And then these guys come on and 1 week they have no beard and you can't have a beard. Then the next week they all start growing beards. I mean, this this is not an organization being directed by Jehovah God, the God of the universe. This is a sham. This is a sham. Oh, I tell you what, you got me laughing though. You really too much. All right. Well, let's. I think we all get that. I don't know what else to be said about the governing body. I can't say too much more. But anyways, reports have been coming in here, and then this got my attention big time. A number of people gave me information concerning Rick. It looks like a change is on the horizon. Now, I don't know for sure. Don't take this to the bank and cash it, but it seems viable. It seems like this could take place, that the Watchtower could be considering eliminating chaperones when the witnesses have a date. Now, that's interesting. Now, you probably remember yourself when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses and you had to, if you had a date as a young man or a young woman, it wouldn't have to be real young. I saw a couple that were in their 40s that had to have a chaperone when they went out on a date. I mean, that's a little absurd, right? So I got thinking, could the Watchtower change their position on this? And I would think so, because I'll tell you what, when I think of a chaperone, what now I can see it. For example, the word chaperone, it can be, you can put legs on and walk all over the map with it. Because I mean, when you're a young kid, I know at Disney World, for example, you have to have you can't go in there if you're under like 15 years old without a parent or a chaperone. I get that part of it, but a chaperone to be with you when you're on a date with a person is a little counterproductive, I think. But maybe you think otherwise. And Susan? Let me give you this. Then I want your thoughts on it. So what the chaperone does to be counterproductive, in my way of thinking, it would inhibit emotional intimacy. Now just think about that. It would kind of inhibit, slow down, or stop emotional intimacy. When you're on a date, you're trying to, if you really like the person, the girl or the man that you're kind of romancing here, you're trying to build a deep romantic connection, and this requires vulnerability. It is incredibly difficult to have deep, private conversations about personal fears, goals, or past experiences with a third person listening. So, see, I mean, this is something that even God, Susan, is the word chaperone in the Bible? I haven't looked it up, is it?
Do you know how many times the word chaperone is in the Bible?
How many?
None. Do you know how many times the word chaperone is alluded to in the Bible?
How many times?
None. It's not there.
All right.
Nowhere can you find it.
Well, wait a
And
minute.
that's according to AI.
Well, wait a minute now. Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to be, the only biblically truthful organization on the planet. So you're saying chaperone is not in the Bible?
It's not in the Bible, and the only other religion as a whole that practices it are Muslims.
Muslims.
Yes.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yes, they're the only one other religious group that practices it.
Wow. All right. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
AI to take the Watchtower down.
What's that?
AI is going to take the Watchtower down
Yeah, well, it's
because in their new book, their silver sword, there's 80 scriptures in the Bible that are out, and they don't know how to read them when it goes up against the King James Version of the Bible now.
right. Well, what we're doing here, David, we're discussing chaperones. I'll bring you in a while. I can discuss some other thoughts, but let's stay right on this subject, okay?
Yeah, which is like when I was dating my wife. They asked me if it was okay to have somebody else with us. I told them to take a hike.
You told the witnesses to take a hike. You didn't want another person with you. Well, why was that, David? Why did you not want another person to go on a date with you?
Because one, I'm old enough to make my own decisions, and I was old enough to be a proper gentleman to that person.
Well, see,
And they had trust in me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then they had trust in me to be able to go out and not do something stupid or dumb to that person, So the witnesses try to get in between me and Penny once or twice when we started dating. I told them to take a hike. I don't need you.
Well, you know what it is, David. See what the Watchtower thinks, and I've always known this. I've talked about it thousands of times in the 6 screens in 20 years. They think because a man and a woman are alone that they're going to have intimate relations together, and that is not the case. That is not the case. But they assume everyone would do this. So they got to have a chaperone so there'll be no issues here. But also, they want to control you from the cradle to the grave. They want to know what your conversation would be. Is it theocratic conversation? Is this couple going to pioneer together? I mean, this organization is just too much on people. But I'll tell you what chaperoning does. It's like Susan says, it's not mentioned in the Bible. The Muslims, she says, is the only other religion that does it. But what it does, it hinders the natural growth of intimacy and independence. Yes. Seeing how a partner handles a disagreement, a stressful situation, or a private moment of tension without outside people listening in is a very critical test of one's relationship. How can you really get into deep private conversation and with someone listening in? Yeah, geez, but the Watchtower puts that on people, not just young people, but also it puts it on older people as well. Like I said, I knew a couple in their 40s. They used to have a chaperone. Chaperones, well, it's artificial behavior. Now, just stop. I want you to think about this for a second. And when you have a date and you have a third party come along with you, the one you're dating is going to show artificial behavior. People often act differently when they know they are being actively watched by an authority figure of peer, making it harder to see your partner's true character, right? Really, you don't mind if you got a friend there and you're getting romantically involved with her and you each like each other. You're willing to share a few thoughts about your life, but do you need, it's going to create artificial behavior if you have someone there that shouldn't be there in the first place. It's none of their business. But at the same time, they're listening in, and it makes it very awkward. It makes it very restrictive. And, well, I'll tell you what it does in the witness world. And this is where I know everybody out there listening in is going to agree with me. I don't think there's one person that will disagree with me. So when you have a chaperone and the couple can't really be themselves because it's a third party, what this is doing is it's creating an urge to hurry up and get married. Yeah, that's what chaperoning does. It makes people hurry up and get married, just to gain their privacy and independence. They're gonna say, "I don't like this. I don't like having a chaperone. I don't like having this person come on our dates. Let's just get married and get this over with." See what I'm talking about?
I
That's
agree with you.
yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. It's Aaron. I just wanted to jump in here and kind of give a little bit of my background. I'll try to keep it, brief and to the point.
Sure.
But basically, when I was, it was back in 2003, I met a sister from their local congregation up in Maryland, which is about an hour and a half from me, or maybe an hour. And then where she was from was like Annapolis, which is, further than that from where I am in Delaware. But she happened to be from another country. So she was here like on a all pair visa, just like a work visa thing. And so, long story short, 6 months, we ended up getting together. But, well, actually, we were, from the time we met till the time we actually got married was only 6 months, which was very bad. And I was 20 years old. And it was totally the wrong thing to ever have happen. But I actually was in an interesting position because I was already driving at that time. I had my own car, and I didn't mind, taking the hike up to Annapolis to see her every now and then, maybe every week or so. So that's what I did. And her being from another country, sometimes in the witness world, other countries do things slightly differently. She didn't really see the need to do the whole chaperoning thing. So we got away with that for quite a while. And, so we didn't have sex, but some things did happen, other things, touching and all that. But, at a certain point, I visited her hall and had some meetings with her, and the elders started to see us together, and they actually pulled us in their back room one time and said, "Hey, this has to stop." And they said, "Aaron, you know better." I'll never forget it. So yeah, I mean, that really threw a monkey wrench in my whole experience as a young man, and it took me 6 years to get out of that relationship, which never should have been started in the first place. But that's what the witnesses do to people. So yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that, Aaron, and you can really see it very, very awkward. Very, very awkward to have a third party butting in. Gee, it's good to hear from you, Aaron. You doing okay out there in Maryland?
Yeah. Yep. Still hanging around.
All right.
I like the new format that you have going with Susan up at the helm with you. So yep, very nice.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Aaron.
you,
We
Aaron.
appreciate that. Good to hear from you. You're a good guy. Thank you. All right, let's go to Dick Borgie of Constance. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. I know when I was dating my first wife. Are we unmuted?
Yeah.
Rick, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. I know when I was dating my first wife, Pam, and I'd probably been out on 2 or 3 dates with her, and I was pulled into the back room, and I was told, you better be thinking about marriage. And that was the last thing I had in my mind. 3 dates, you know, because Brother Boogie, we know that you're not an innocent person being in the Marines and being 25 years old. We know that. So we're very fearful that you're going to go someplace you shouldn't. So you better be thinking, getting her a ring. That's what I was told. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, Dick,
3 days.
this has me.
3 days.
This actually has me laughing. I can't. I'm sorry, folks, for laughing, but it's hysterical. And this is the feeling I now have as I look at the Watchtower organization. It's humorous. It's a joke. Poor Dick. I mean, look at the pressure they put on. You better think about marriage. I don't even know the person. Why would they say stuff like this? This is just absolutely nuts. I think you'll agree, Susan, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, how can you know someone after 3 dates, especially if there's someone sitting there with you, monitoring everything you say, everything you do, and reporting back to the elders to let them know there's any hanky-panky going on?
It's just so when you look at it, folks. Listen, I'm trying to just bring this down to a level of we're all humans, and not a level of normalcy. So let's go with that. There's gotta be some normalcy here, but how is it we let him dictate to us, bring us in the back room and give us all this baloney, and we all went along with it. I'm telling you, the more I look at it, it's more of a joke than I ever thought it would ever be. Yeah. So what do you have here when you have? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just thought of it's Maverick again. I was just thinking of how you see yourself on a sort of inmates. I just reminded me of inmates, where the wife or the girlfriend of the inmate comes in, and then they want to have a moment, and there's bars there, so they can't do anything, obviously, and then there's this prison guard standing over them, and they just have to get on with it. They have to talk and say what they want to say, and he's standing right over them, making sure that there's nothing said that's inappropriate for an inmate to say. What's the difference, Rick? Can you tell me? It feels exactly the same. I mean, it's just like you can't make it up. But I mean, chaperone. I was looking at the root meaning of it. Apparently, it meant in French. The roots of it suggesting an older person looking out for the health, the welfare, and the safety of people, of the younger one in a public scenario. Now that can be taken way out of proportion. I mean, this is the extreme end of it. There's one thing having your eye on some youngsters if they're in their early teens or whatever, and that's a supervisory role that all older ones, parents, older people would naturally want to have towards younger people. But if you're in your 30s and your 40s and you want to go on a date with somebody, and you're almost feeling like someone is telling, well, you need someone with you. I'm like, what are you talking about? I had one elder when I was in my congregation one time when I was a sister that I was dating at the time, and he said, well, we need to have a little talk. Now, I'm like 35 years old at that point. And he said, we need to have a little talk. I said, about what? He said, well, normally when people get together, we normally have. I said, what are you going about, birds and bees? I said, I think I'm past that now. I think, it's like, it's almost, and he just went, all right, okay, yeah, well, and he didn't know what to do with himself. Only he's the presiding overseer, and he's known me since I was in my teens. Like, it's just insane, Rick. But yeah, prison inmates, I think, got more freedom than JW chaperones.
Well, good comment, Maverick. It's really, really good. Thank you. You do a good job commenting. And, you got me also thinking about this couple that I knew. Well, actually, I knew the woman, and she was my son-in-law's mother. And she was, looking for a mate. And she was at the time, she was in her 40s. And so she was so excited. And, my former wife and I got to know her. And so she called us up and she said, can you come to Tennessee? And can you come because I want you to meet, I was living in Florida at the time. She says, could you come to Tennessee to my Kingdom Hall? I want you to meet my new boyfriend, the man that I may be marrying. I said, wow, That's very good. Her name was Donna. I said, Donna, that's very good. You're finally going to meet a nice man, and we're going to make the trip from Florida to Tennessee. I'm going to be there and meet your new boyfriend. So I drove all the way up from Florida. So I got to the Kingdom Hall up in Tennessee, and I walked in. It was a Sunday meeting, Watchtower. And so I walked in. I seen Donna. Well, she's sitting there, and she's not even sitting next to anybody. So, I went through the meeting because I got there a little late. So I was saying, gee, that's funny. Did her boyfriend, leave her or not, something break up or something? So after the meeting, I went up and said, Donna, I said, where's your boyfriend? Well, he's sitting down front. I said, what's he doing sitting down front? She says, well, we didn't want to sit together because we didn't want to stumble anybody. I says, what? So, I mean, I never heard of such a thing. But she says, well, the brothers and sisters, if we sat together, we might stumble them. I mean, this is how foolish, this is how critical people can be in the Watchtower. And then when they were going to date, they had to have a chaperone. And she had to be 46 at the time. She had to be, And so I'm thinking that is a wacky thing. Even when as a witness at the time, I thought that was very stupid to do that. I mean, you can sit with your boyfriend in the Kingdom Hall. No, you're not going to stumble anybody. But this is how wacky the organization is, Did you want to come on 60T, 602? Come on.
Hey Rick, this is Gilbert. I just wanted to say before I go to my comment, I just want to thank Aaron for his comment. And in light of everything that he said, we will be reopening the Judicial Committee. But other than that, I wanted to talk about the chaperone. And chaperoning is a beautiful thing because, like in the movie The Fiddler on the Roof, it's tradition, and every family has its own traditions. So if a family decides the issue of chaperone should only be made by the mother and father of the children involved, period. And for whatever reasons that they may have, they may do it just to test, to see the attitude of the young man or whatever. The Bible you can allude to the case of a lack of chaperone where Dinah got raped and the brothers killed the guy and all hell broke loose. So, you can make the Bible say whatever you want when it comes to any topic, right? But the point I'm trying to make is that the real issue here, and I made a video about it, it's called spiritual adultery. See, Watchtower gets involved in every relationship, like in an adulterous relationship. There's a third party when there should only be two. So the issue of a chaperone should be between the dad and the daughter, all right, with the mom and the children, whatever. But it's just that relationship. So when Jehovah's Witnesses institute this institutional chaperoning, what happens is they're literally setting up the children, the young adults, to live a life where now that they've told us to have a chaperone, now what do we do when it comes to Christmas? I don't know. What does our third person in our marriage say? Well, you can't celebrate Christmas, you can't celebrate birthdays, you can't do this. Because there's always a third person in your relationship. It's called spiritual adultery. And Watchtower has mastered it to a T. They have perfected it. There is not a subject under the sun, whether it's masturbation, whether it's watching something on the computer, where you go to work at, you pick a subject. Watchtower gets involved like an adulterous woman or an adulterous man into that relationship. And this is the thing about, you're talking about chaperone. Chaperone is a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. And a lot of our great movies in America show scenes where there's chaperoning done properly. But it's a tradition that every individual and every family and every culture makes, whether they do it or whether they don't. But that's their decision to make. So if a man decides and he's gung-ho, my daughter will be chaperoned, we have to respect the man. But Watchtower disrespects the man by getting involved where they don't belong. Like the Bible says, they're busybodies. They are the ultimate, if you type in busybody in a computer, you'll get jw.org. They are the personification of busybodies.
Well, you got me thinking again. All the callers do. And when I'm thinking here, you're right. Now, you said that chaperoning is a beautiful thing, and it can be a beautiful thing. It really can be. But here's where here's where you draw the line of demarcation. A chaperone, as even Maverick was just saying, in the pure definition of it, generally has to do with older people, holding the hands of younger ones, taking them to Disney World or an amusement park or something. They really can't go in by themselves. They need a chaperone. But what the Watchtower does, their definition of a chaperone is a spy. They're spying on you. They're probably even taking notes. They probably, have a recorder hidden under their coat, and they're listening to everything you say. They're spying on you. You can't be yourself. It's creating undue stress in a relationship where there shouldn't be undue stress. So good comments. Really like the comments. Thank you, Gilbert.
Yeah, I'll send you the bill. Okay, take
Okay. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. You're on the ball. All right. So that's good. So what do you guys think? Well, what do you really think? I mean, but it goes deeper than that. Let's move on now. But staying on the same, well, on the marriage understanding of marriage in the Watchtower. Last week, Diamond Dave. I don't know if he's still on a telephone line or not, but if he is, he can speak up. But Diamond Dave was on last week on our program. He's a Mormon. He never has been a Jehovah's Witness. Well, he was a Mormon, and he's not now. But Diamond Dave came up with a saying that they use in the Mormon Church, because it came up last week. Can the Mormons date a person who is not a Mormon? Because we know in the Jehovah's Witness world, you're not supposed to really date a person that is not a Jehovah's Witness. So, anyways, Diamond Dave said that they have a term in the Mormon religion, and this is what they call flirt and convert. Yeah, you heard me right. Flirt and convert. And he said that the Mormons, see, they allow you to flirt, I guess, but you have to have converting in mind. Now, Dick he took it to a different level here where they allow you to date, but you have to have marriage in mind, right? So they're thinking here in the Mormon church, at least they have you date, but your intention should be to convert that one to be a Mormon. So now let's bring this up another level or two. So we brought up here in the sixth screens numerous times in the last, I'd say, 5 years. Is the Watchtower actually getting ready to allow people, Jehovah's Witnesses, to marry outside the so-called truth? Is it actually going to happen? Well, I've been getting reports again coming into the six screens that, boy, I got a number of reports that come in here saying they're getting ready to do that. Now, and they're saying that it's based on numerous reasons. So one of the reasons is right now, the Jehovah's Witnesses, as we know, are hemorrhaging. We got many, many Jehovah's Witnesses leaving the organization. So what is being said here in the reports I'm getting in is that the Watchtower is going to loosen up this idea of only marrying someone in the truth. And you can meet a person, whether it be a man, if you're a man, you meet a woman, you meet a man. And if this person that you meet is not in the truth, maybe they love God. Maybe they read the Bible, and you could witness to them and bring them in the truth, kind of like the Mormons' idea here, flirt and convert. So in other words, yeah, you can go after another man or a woman outside the truth, but you got to convert them to the truth, so to speak. So anyways, I thought that was fascinating. And, I got looking up, would you really be disfellowshipped if you actually married someone outside the truth? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses do not physically stop or legally ban a member from marrying someone outside the faith. They view it as a personal choice. However, the religion strictly discourages it and does not allow it in an administrative or spiritual sense for baptized members. So they don't allow it. They're not going to disfellowship you if you do marry someone outside the Jehovah's Witness faith. They strictly discourage it. And what they'll do, the official rules at the Watchtower, is that you will lose privileges. If you're a baptized member who marries outside the faith, you're no longer considered an exemplary Christian and will lose special duties or jobs in the congregation. And of course, don't ever think that you could get married in a kingdom hall. You would never have a kingdom hall wedding if you marry someone outside the so-called truth. Elders of the kingdom hall will not perform a wedding ceremony for a member marrying an unbaptized person or unbaptized, not a Jehovah's Witness. So I want to bring that up tonight. Susan might have some thoughts on it as well. Susan, now, there's something that we were going over this week, Susan. We found it very fascinating because even Gilbert, we talked about it last week. There's a caste system. And, this has been going on for the eons of time where there's a caste system.
Well, it's not necessarily.
Well, yeah, maybe you can discuss it a little bit, but we were talking about how, well, even in the Watchtower, it's like matchmaking going on, right? This happens a lot. Really, even myself, when I was getting to be a young man, all the sisters were trying to, have me be friends with their daughter, and I didn't really connect with any of them. Oh, my daughter would be great for you, Rick. And I mean, they kept coming up to me at conventions and saying, Rick, I have a nice daughter, and I'd like to have you meet her. And I really wasn't interested. And so there's a lot of matchmaking. They try to put certain people together, and it's not based on real camaraderie or based on really, truly strong relationships. It's based on how spiritually inclined a person is. Well, she's a pioneer. You should like her. Or he's a ministerial servant. So, Susan, tell us about this matchmaking. Tell us what you know about this.
Well, to me, you have Match.com. People go on the computer and they're trying to find people to date or marry, so forth. And that's fine. I think it's a good idea. Well, it's not much different from the way they did things in Bible days, where the father was the computer and they put things together so that the daughter or son or whatever could find someone to marry. So I feel that system and the Jewish system was Match.com of their day.
So what you're saying? So, there's dating sites today. Match.com is one of them. And this is really nothing new.
No, it's not. There's nothing new under the sun.
There you go.
So in fact, it's the parents know you. You don't like, kids don't like that you hear that, but your parents know you better than anyone. So they can look around and they can see different ones that might be good for you to marry. Maybe even not so much now because it's not the custom, but the custom now is to go online and you find someone. You let AI or whatever system put you together. But it doesn't always work. But you know what? I've known people who are married and very happy with children, and they use Match.com or whatever system they decide to use. So,
as a matter of fact, Susan, we talked to a couple recently, that Jehovah's Witness couple in Chicago.
In Chicago, yes.
And we asked them how they met, and they said on Match.com. Yeah.
And they're wonderful people, and they're really good together. And that surprised me because it's the first couple I had met that had used, a computer system to get together. So it's just, there's nothing new under the sun. There's always, things just get recycled in a different way.
Well, good, Susan. Yeah, so what we have here, folks, is, look, as long as man's been on the earth, they've had they were looking for a mate, and vice versa, the woman looking for a mate as well. What do you think, Steph? Is that Stephen?
No. I think it was-
Yeah, that's definitely. There's something that you mentioned that I just kind of wanted to reiterate. One of the things that helped wake me up is the realization that Watchtower wasn't always doing things strictly by the book, meaning the Bible. And I was at a funeral of a Jehovah's Witness that I had known basically my whole life. His daughter never became a baptized witness. And eventually she grew up, moved away, and she married someone who wound up being a minister. So at the funeral, of course, she came to her father's funeral, and you could hear all the murmuring with the witnesses about how she left the truth. And to add insult to injury, as it were, she even married this Christian minister. And I said, kind of without even thinking, I said, well, the Bible does not say a Jehovah's Witness should marry a Jehovah's Witness. The Bible says marry only in the Lord, meaning a Christian is encouraged to only marry a Christian. It doesn't say that a Jehovah's Witness should only marry a Jehovah's Witness. And of course, everybody looked at me like I was, the devil, not in my mind. But if Watchtower really wanted to reverse that policy, they could say, we've gone beyond our step here, our control. The Bible doesn't say it does say you should marry a Christian. So we should step out of the game of legislating who you marry, provided that you marry a Christian, then you're doing what, the Bible says to do. So that's one way that you kind of get out of it. But you're so right. And I have known several individuals that got disfellowship because they married non-witnesses. I know it's not a disfellowshipping act, but I can tell you 2 people for sure that were disfellowshipped simply because they, rather than, keep getting into trouble with a person that they were attracted to, they got married and they were disfellowshipped just for that. And then just to reiterate what you said, if you do marry a non-witness, you cannot have the wedding or any reception at a kingdom hall of any kind. And then also, if there's ever issues that arise in the marriage, the elder's position is going to be, well, what did you expect? You married a non-witness. There's not a whole lot we can do. This person's not even a witness. They don't recognize, our authority. But if Watchtower wanted to get out of that business, they could just go back and actually do what the scripture said do. A Christian is encouraged to only marry a Christian. It does not say that a Jehovah's Witness can only marry a Jehovah's Witness.
Well, thank you very much, Steph. I appreciate that comment. Well, marital strain is a big thing in the Watchtower. I've been a witness. I'm not now, of course, but I was one for 50 years of my life. And I can honestly tell you, there wasn't a whole lot of happy marriages I saw. There was some I saw. The couple was well suited for one another and got along good. But I would say most of the marriages, no, they weren't good. There was marital strain. And I got to think, well, what is really the reason now? Well, of course, we know the Watchtower, and even Christians will, no premarital sex, and I can get that part of it. But because there's no premarital sex, and because of the casual dating being banned in the Watchtower, young witnesses, and I've seen this with many of my young witness friends when I was younger, they often rush into marriage purely for physical intimacy or superficial religious compliance rather than genuine emotional or intellectual capability. What does that mean? It means that, they have a girlfriend and, you really can't date. So they say, well, let's just get married and get it over with, and then we can be intimate with one another. And so what you have here is a couple, and I've seen it, you have too. You have a couple here that gets married, and because scriptural divorce is only permitted in cases of adultery, you have countless, I would say millions of Jehovah's Witness couples who right now remain trapped. And they're trapped for decades in deeply unhappy, cold, emotional, vacant marriages. That's what you get. That's why you have a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that they're just going through the motions. And that's why we had Barbara Anderson on here. Now, really, there's a lot of wife swapping going on in the Watchtower. And I often would think about that and say, that is absolutely nuts. That is a terrible thing. These people are Jehovah's Witnesses. That is condemned. Fornication, porneia, adultery, call it whatever you want to call it. That is totally condemned. But Barbara Anderson, a very credible woman, she came on this program and said it's happening. It's happening quite often in the Watchtower organization. And how many people have we come on here and talk about that as well? Why are these people swapping wives and husbands? Can you imagine that? Why are they doing this? It's because there's no way out. They're very unhappy. They don't know what to do.
That was going to be my next point, is we had been talking about happiness, and they're seeking happiness, thinking that they're going to find it in these relationships that they form, but they don't.
No.
In fact, it brings more unhappiness and stress and who knows what else, divorce. So it's just not possible by taking these God-given principles and throwing them away. If you do that, you're just never going to hit a home run, hit it out of the park.
Well, so I think it's safe to say, talking about happiness tonight, Jehovah's Witness world. I get my microphone back here. I'm just moving mics around. Get some new mics coming in there so we can do this in a better fashion, folks. But anyways, well, I'm thinking we were talking about, happiness tonight, and are Jehovah's Witnesses really happy? Well, not really. How about the marital strain they're in? Well, we see that as well. And you know what? I'll tell you what. So many witnesses right now, they're saying enough is enough is enough, and they're seeing through all this baloney. And if anyone has any other thoughts on marriage, we're going to move to some other subjects. But if you have thoughts on marriage, on happiness, so go ahead and speak up right now if you like. It's *6. Come on, tell us. Did you experience chaperoning when you were getting married? Let's go out once again to. Yes, Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a comment about the chaperoning part, but in terms of happy marriages, I have to say, in the congregations of what really have only been in two, there were not a lot of happy marriages. There were people that separated and divorced during the course of me being a witness. Even one, her husband, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say contract, but he wound up with cancer. And she separated from him while he was going through his cancer treatment. And other witnesses had to kind of step in and do that role. She didn't even help him. The man was dying. This is the kind of thing that we saw. I've seen witnesses divorce. I've seen them separate. And I've seen others who just merely tolerate it. I mean, barely could be. You could just tell when you're in their company that two of them couldn't stand each other. I even saw one where he literally picked his wife up and walked her down the street and around the corner because they were arguing and fighting. And that's the kind of thing that I saw. You just didn't see many happy pictures of marriage in the congregation, despite the propaganda to the contrary.
Well, yeah, in fact, I'm glad you noticed that too, because even when I was a full-fledged witness, I noticed it. And, another thing I noticed too, at least when I was in Florida, and it happened a couple of times down there, there was a man, a witness man, I believe he was a ministerial servant at the time, and his wife suddenly died. And she was a really nice woman. And she died, and within a month, within a month, he had another sister, a Jehovah's Witness sister, that he was sitting next to and cozying up to. In fact, the wife, just a month earlier, she died. I couldn't believe it, that all of a sudden he has another girlfriend. And it really was shocking to me and shocking to other witnesses too. If your wife just died, I think it would at least let the dust settle a little bit before you would start getting romantically involved with someone else. And then even our Watchtower study conductor, it happened there too. And this man was a steady hitter, a real good person, I thought. And then all of a sudden, his wife, who was a wonderful woman, she died of a heart attack. And within a very short period of time, all of a sudden he's got this new girlfriend. And I have to say, I saw it up here in Massachusetts too. And it was just too quick. That there's, there's no rule against it. I'm not going to say that, but something's a little suspicious. Something's a little suspicious when you don't let time pass. Go ahead, Steph.
That's one of those things that is a major red flag that Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult, is exactly how fast these people get married. Because in regular society, people understand the concept that you need time to get over the person that you were with and grieve, and that you're in a vulnerable state because you were married and you had a partner, now you don't. And so you run the risk of just going out and connecting to somebody that you're going to find out later you truly are not compatible with. So people will tend to kind of hold back as much as they can, and their friends would try to remind them, like, hey, you're just feeling strongly, but give yourself some time before you maybe think about reaching another person. But in this cult, like you said, the body's not even cold, and they're already, getting engaged to somebody else. I've seen that more times than I could count. I know an elder right now that's on his third marriage.
Yeah.
Because of that very situation. And you just look at them and say, they don't even have the same concept of marriage the way a regular person does. They don't. And again, that's a hallmark of cults.
Yeah, and then also there's some very unusual marriages too. Somebody sent me some stuff this week about a man in his congregation. The man is 68 years old, and he's going to marry a 28-year-old girl, a woman, sister. And I'm saying, wow, that's but some oddball marriages. I've seen it even the congregation I went to. I saw a 52-year-old woman marry a 94-year-old man, and I'm saying, whoa, that's a yeah.
This wife swapping thing, okay? This ain't no boredom thing. Okay, this is a distraction. It's a distraction from the cult. Okay, because if you lived a perfectly normal life and you stayed away from these goofy cults, you would eventually learn how to be natural with everything. But it's all a big distraction, and these people, it's a perversion.
Well, that's a good word for it. It's perversion. It really is. It's a perverted organization.
What about your uncle that married Jean?
Yeah, well, he wasn't a witness at the time. Yeah, no. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that, you just, now that you're out of it, now that we're out of it and we look back at it, we can really, we can pick it apart a lot. It's hard to pick apart a lot when you're in there. You don't really notice it. But, little bumps on the road, you do notice. But, boy, you can really notice the bumps once you're out. All right. I want to go on to this. I want to talk about, I got to tell you about this Awake magazine that I ran into here. We've got all kinds of bound volumes and what have you, and saving them through the eons of time here. But I tell you, I came across an article in the 1970 Awake magazine, and it's the April 22nd magazine on page 8. Now, the reason why I find this very timely, and I wanted to share it with our audience tonight, is because it's the whole article is dealing with the fact that a religion shouldn't change its doctrine. It shouldn't really change its policies. They should stay pretty consistent. Well, look at the pot calling the kettle black here. All right, really, when you stop and think about it, the Jehovah's Witnesses have done exactly what they were accusing the Catholics of doing back in this article from 1970, Awake. And I'm just going to read you some excerpts from the magazine, because I'm saying, these hypocrites, how is it that you can remain one of Jehovah's Witnesses after seeing their activity? What they're doing is just contrary to what would be truthful. So they're condemning the Catholics. And is that one Catholic, they had a comment of him in the article. They have different people comment. So one Catholic who said, just 10 years ago, we Catholics had the absolute truth. We put our faith in this. Now the Pope and our priest are telling us this is not the way to believe anymore, but we are to believe new things. How do I know the new things will be the truth in 5 years? This is what's actually printed in the Awake magazine with the Catholics saying when the Catholics changed a lot of their policies and a lot of their doctrine. So, this is really the Watchtower condemning the Catholics for doing this back in 1970. And what are they doing now? All right. What are they doing now? Now, they also have in the same article here, they quote from the Catholic Journal America. And this is what it says. It says, for some Catholic, the changes are going too far and too fast. And it looks as if they will even go further and faster. Well, I could just substitute the word Catholics there and put the Jehovah's Witnesses in that sentence. Because, yes, they're saying some of the Catholics, they're saying the changes are going too far and too fast. Well, how many times have we heard that even in the Watchtower now? Many witnesses that are just getting out, they're leaving because of these changes. And I'm going to read you some more, but this article is so hypocritical. Here they are accusing the Catholic Church, changing their doctrines and policies, and people being upset about it. Well, they're doing the same darn thing. And I tell you, it's just so. As a result, I'm just kind of paraphrasing some of the information. It says the result of such happenings is that the foundations of the churches are being shaken. This is the Watchtower here, making this comment. The foundations of the church are being shaken because the Catholics are changing their position. And we know what some of those positions are, right? We know that they, eating meat on Friday, it's really not a big issue now in the Catholic Church, but, was back prior to 1970. But these are some of the changes that, the Catholics made, and the Watchtower is making a big deal out of it. Like, oh my goodness, how can a church do that? Well, they're doing it. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I thought I'd want to bring that to your attention tonight as well. Well, I think we're kind of coming up on our time to kind of say goodnight to everybody, unless anyone has any further thoughts they'd like to bring up. Anyone want to bring up something that they heard here tonight that they'd like to discuss with us?
If anyone would be willing, I'd like to share what it's like for young people, what they're going through in their dating world, what it's like. I can't imagine what you go through.
Yeah, is there anybody out there? Most of the people listening to the program would be, former Jehovah's Witnesses. But Susan's kind of suggesting if anyone's listening in that's young and dating, even as an ex-witness, what's it like today? I know it's
find friends.
Yeah, well, I would imagine it's a lot different. And I mentioned, in fact, I've told the story numerous times on here that, I know I know a lot of young men, and they're not really dating like young men were doing back when I was a young man. They're not really being attracted to the dating scene. Do you find this in your neighborhood? Do you find that, well, it's a cultural change?
Share what Doug said the other day.
Well, you share with them, yeah.
Well, we have several workers, and they keep mentioning how hard it is to find someone. And one is looking in a bar, and I mentioned, he says, well, she's good at talking, and she's real good. I said, that's what she's paid to do. I get it that you like talking with her, but that's her job. So just keep that in mind, because he wants to ask her out, and he's nervous and whatever. But it just seems that it's very hard today to meet people.
Well, yeah, it's a cultural change, but I think of the Jehovah's Witness organization, it's a little bit different. Now, if you're a worldly person, I'm not going to suggest this to anybody, but sex is something that is kind of like ordinary today. It's not like it was years ago. So
Shame.
1, 2, 3 testing. 1, 2, 3 testing. You might be hearing me, but it's not as clear as it should be. 1, 2, 3 testing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's coming through.
Okay, all right, we're getting me. All right. All right, let me just check one more thing. We'll come back here, folks. Thank you for being patient. I just want to see why this mic's not working. It won't be on the good mic. One, two, three testing. Okay, we'll go with that, Mike. It's not that great, but we have a few minutes left in the program anyways. So let's run with this one. All right, folks, sorry for the problem with the sound. The microphone here I have just started conking out on me. So we're now going through,
All right, folks.
what's that? All right.
Well, hey, Rick.
What's that?
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
This is RJ.
Yeah, RJ.
I just wanted to say, yeah, I mean, the way witnesses have restrictions on dating and then how antisocial witnesses can be, maybe some of them just giving up and the juice ain't worth the squeeze for them.
Yeah, well, no doubt. I mean, it's a very difficult thing being, dating and being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, RJ. So, I mean, you've got experience. I'm sure a lot of people listening in here tonight have it as well. Well, thank you.
Witnesses don't seem to understand the process that's been going on since the 1920s of the West and a date. The worldly people that you're going to meet, even though the witnesses have told you that when you leave, you're going to become a pothead and God knows what else, the worldly people out there, they respect good morals. They respect waiting till the wedding. They have ladies and gentlemen out there. And the date is supposed to be sitting with a cup of coffee and asking questions to see if you like the person and if the person has the same standards and compatibility that you have. And for some reason, the witnesses, they have something akin to an arranged marriage now with the chaperone. And it doesn't seem to make happy unions at all.
Well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, Pixie. As we were just discussing earlier, there are some Jehovah's Witness marriages that are good marriages, but there's many that are not. In fact, most are not. So it's a known fact that the Jehovah's Witness organization not only destroys so many other facets of life, but marriage is one that they can totally destroy as well. And what an awkward life. If you have a good relationship, you're on top of the mountain. But to be married to someone that you really don't really love would be very difficult for people. And geez, many Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm sure, feel that. And geez, you can't have a normal life like that. Then you look back and you say, well, gee, I just married that person because he was a ministerial servant. I just married that girl because she was a pioneer. That's not enough to hold a marriage together. Yeah.
No, it isn't. And my neighbors, I saw in a little Catholic booklet, they take about 3 months and they have questions for the couple about money and values and hobbies. And they go over these questions for about 3 months. And those people seem to have long-lasting, happy marriages. So I never understood why the witnesses didn't have a little booklet like the Catholics or the Baptists have a course. And some of these religions have a course after the couple is married. And they keep having these good marriage classes. So it's been a frustration to me. And some of the elders ask some of the most rude questions, thinking they're going to chaperone people in their 50s. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good point, Pixie. I'm glad that you brought that up because there is a certain classes that people have. Even if you have trouble in your marriage, in a Jehovah's Witness organization, who do you talk to? They would frown the idea of you going to a marriage counselor. So what do you go
Because
to?
the Catholics frown so heavily on divorce, they have a retreat course if a couple should be married for a long time and have problems in their marriage. They have a couples retreat course for a variety of couples. To me, it sounded like, the newlywed game or something, but they go and they have luncheon and they have these lectures and they talk about how to improve their marriage. What a great thing that would be.
Well, it's a darn good thing. Well, thank you, Pixie. Well, folks, I'm going to kind of wrap it here. Now, listen, I want to apologize for the bad sound right now. One of my microphones went out, so I'm using a portable one here. It's not my normal microphone. So we'll be back actually tomorrow, we'll be back on, get this thing straightened out. But sorry for the sound, but I know you can hear me, but I know the quality isn't that good. Anything you want to say, Susan, to wrap this up?
Well, I'm really interested in this thing about dating and Jehovah's Witnesses, because we have so many young people at our business here that have been talking about this very case, and I'd just like to see what you have to say, the things that you've learned.
Yeah. Well, actually, what we'll say is we'll have to, bring it up again. I mean, marriage is something that we have talked about a lot here in the six screens. It gets a lot of attention, and so we'll bring it up again when the sound is better. I know it's not pleasant listening to bad sound. So, folks, we want to thank you all for coming in tonight. We appreciate your presence and spending some time with us here.
And I want to thank RJ for sharing all those things that he did. I'm so sorry we didn't get to have a proper time with it, but it was really good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, RJ, and thank everyone, Pixie, and thank you all, Dick Borgie, and all the other people called in as well, Stefan, and forgive me if I don't get to you all, but we thank you all for coming in. And those two chatting on our in the chat, the YouTube chat. Thank you for doing that as well. But anyways, we have a six screen Sunday tomorrow. That starts at 1:00. Now, six screen Sunday, we get into theology. We don't preach here on Saturday night. We don't get into the scriptures. But if you're one that you have a desire to learn more about the scriptures, and you really want to find what the Bible says truthfully, not from false prophets, well, join us tomorrow, beginning at 1:00. We have a program called Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower. We have two Christian apologists that come on, and they can help you. They can get you to understand things that the Watchtower never taught you. And then at 2:00, we have another program with Anne Marie. It's called Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses Share Their Story of Being in the Watchtower. And so hopefully we'll get some tomorrow. And if you're listening in tonight, and you'd like to tell your story, and Anne-Marie will give you upwards of an hour to do it, to tell your story of how you were involved with the Watchtower. That'll be tomorrow, beginning at 2:00, same telephone number. And then at 3:00, we do JW World News, Sunday edition. And we got some new things, too, we can talk about tomorrow that I couldn't bring up here tonight. And then also at 4:00, we have the Christian Court. That's quite a program, friends. If you haven't listened to that, Christians have peculiar questions, and sometimes the questions can have multiple answers. So by all means, check out tomorrow's Christian Court. I think you'll be enlightened to see that, yes, there can be different answers from the Bible, and you'll find it fascinating. And then we have also, if you have Bible questions, you got to have some. We have a man that was involved with the Watchtower writing department. His name is Jay Hess. He'll be coming on tomorrow at 5 o'clock tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon, and he'll be answering any Bible questions you have. He does a great job.
Oh,
So thank you all for being with us tonight. Now, don't go anywhere if you're listening on the telephone line and you want to continue to talk with people. It won't be on YouTube. It won't be on Facebook. It's not recorded. So if you want to get in, talk to some ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, join company in with them, and just be civil in there. And remember to hit *6 to unmute yourself, *6 to mute yourself, and that'll keep it so there's not a whole lot of background noise. Thank you all. And sorry for the sound, but it will be better tomorrow. And we appreciate Susan being here with me tonight and all the people that were involved in tonight's program. Thank you very much.
Good night, all.